X Games is a spike in everybody's schedule. Doesn't matter what discipline you come from, doesn't matter what sport you're involved in. If you compete at X Games, that is a little peak in your season. It's the reason we have our sponsors, it's the reason most people in the sports do. Hot Wheels has got this program going on. I mean, it's an unbelievable marketing thing, and I heard about for the first time a couple years ago about Toys for Real. And then I got involved in this big jump at the Indy 500. Jumped 332 feet in a truck. It was in front of 300,000 people. It was incredible. It didn't seem like a stunt that you could really top as far as just the splash it made for Mattel. And then, so the next year they came up with the loop, but it was going to be designed after a toy they've got, the Double Dare Snare, which is 2 cars doing the loop simultaneously. On paper, looked ridiculous. In person, looked absolutely outrageous. It was truly an amazing stunt to be a part of, and it's a very committed stunt. It's one of those things that if you drop from 6 stories upside down, you're not walking away. There's no soft landing, you know. I mean, who could turn down the opportunity to climb in a toy for real?
Smoking tires in the streets to the sets of Hollywood and onto the racetrack and pretty much everything in between. I'm Tanner Foust, and welcome to Life in the Foust Lane.
This year, for the first time, the X Games competition is actually part of a point series with the GRC. It doesn't change much in your mind's eye because it's really about doing well at X Games. You know, with the new sport, when you want it to catch on quick, you need those photos of the cars up in the air. You need the quick video images that will spread virally as sound bites for the sport. And we have to find a balance to get those without sacrificing the safety of the drivers. To build a track that is unsafe is, I think, unacceptable. And we kind of had to get together as drivers and just say, look, there are certain elements of this track where the show is taking much more precedence than the safety, and it's not worth it to us right now to get on the track. And that's an awful thing to do because you hope that the organizers are looking out for not only your best interests, but their own. It's in their best interest to create a safe track just for the longevity of the sport. 2 people went to the hospital in practice based on the jump. A 3rd person going would have been a backbreaker, I think, and so I think they had to tabletop the jump out. There are a lot of moving parts at X Games, and it's a matter of getting those parts speaking to each other because you're still jumping 70 feet just because there happens to be a tabletop 3 feet below you. Different camera angles don't have to always show that it's a tabletop, but ultimately as drivers, we want the spectacle also. We want the show to be big so the sport takes off. We don't mind doing the gap jump. As long as something goes wrong in the car, there's some safety there. You're not going metal to metal. So you hope that we can all do the right thing for the sport in the long term and find the right balance between the spectacle and the actual safety of the competition. I'll be honest, it was a little bit depressing the next day after Marcus had crashed to do a track walk with the GRC guys because there were so many places in the track that everything was so last minute, like we have to get the cars on the track, or we're gonna be behind schedule, that they just didn't do any safety stuff.
I mean, that's a fire hydrant right there.
It's a fire hydrant, but there's that blunt edge there.
You hope that the organizers are looking out for you. There were a couple guys there from the X Games that totally got it. You know, there's such a push to deliver a product. On the day, even the stuff that we talked about on the track sometimes didn't get done. And, we eventually just have to go drive. You have to wonder, because as a driver, it starts to make you look bad if you're willing to take your sponsors and your car into an unsafe place. It's a bit irresponsible. There's some strange lines that have to be bridged there that you have to figure out that safety is the concern of everybody as their main concern, because it's the only way we can keep our jobs, frankly, we all still want to make it interesting to watch, and that's sometimes too big a motivator. In the final, I was in the second row, and I got a good start. Was right behind Loeb and was pressuring him. He was protecting his line. I knew if I let him go too far that he'd be able to just hammer down on a racing line and it'd be impossible to catch him. So I needed to pressure him early, and it was working. Unfortunately, car spun in the line, we had a red flag. So we had to go back to our original order. So now I'm back in the second row again. This start, fought to get back into second place, didn't happen. Came together with somebody, broke the power steering. It drained for the next few corners until there was no power steering at all. Doesn't sound like a big problem, but these cars go full lock to lock in like a half turn. And so the power assist is massive on the steering. And when that power steering goes away, you cannot turn the wheel. I was having to put my knee up on the steering wheel. I was having to just grab it, and on some of the bumps, the steering wheel just get pulled right out of your hand. Some of the turns, I just pull the handbrake to get the car to turn instead of having to turn the steering wheel because there was just no way to turn the wheel. I would have pulled over and stopped, but nobody was passing me. There was a fight going on behind me or something, and so I was sitting in third place the whole time. I couldn't catch Ken, even though I saw he had a flat tire. I still couldn't catch him. Then finally on the last lap, I got a nudge from Reese and went into the wall, and I had to back out of it. And they finally came by me. Without the championship points, I probably would have pulled over earlier, but I did manage to scrape some points out of it.
Another medal, 14 medals at X Games.
After the race, I had a lot less media to do than years past. It was the first year that I hadn't walked away with some hardware around my neck. A little bit of a tough pill to swallow, that's racing. I went straight to the hospital, checked on Marcus and Toppy. I was glad that they were good, and then the next morning went back into the yellow driver hat. 5 a.m. had media, like 50 plus cities, like a satellite media tour, where you're on Ron Jackson's morning show and, around the country. And so that was kind of crazy, but ultimately it was a big weekend. A really, really big weekend. Even though it wasn't the best result in the race itself, the Hot Wheels stunt in 1 week got 2.7 billion impressions. And combined with the stunt we did the year before, it's almost 5 billion media impressions that they've hit. And that sounds like just about every person on the planet. So it still is a big weekend at X Games, and now we move forward to the next race.
Racers now, I think, have to earn their living in a different way than traditional motorsports racers. And so with Rallycross and working with Ford, I've been integrating into some of the systems of Ford, testing some of the new performance cars, testing the new STR race car, getting integrated a little bit in with some of the engineering groups without, stepping on anybody's toes. But luckily enough at SEMA, we are launching something I've wanted to do for a long time, which is a special edition of a cool car.